All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. First, welcome everybody to another Polarity Community Tech Tuesday. This week's edition, we're going to focus on unboxing our Community Edition. And for those of you that have been to our Community Tech Tuesdays before, you'll see kind of a difference in the theme. Usually what we focus on is kind of an end-to-end data demonstration for kind of a use case or a scenario that you might experience in your day-to-day job. But this time we're really going to focus on just kind of that first look of, kind of an homage to the YouTube technology unboxings, but really around our Community Edition. So again, welcome to this installation of our Community Tech Tuesday. We do these a few times a month, so be sure to get signed up for our next Community Tech Tuesday. If you're not already on our Community Edition waitlist, which we are rapidly moving through, and thus the impetus for this particular discussion, be sure to get signed up for the Community Edition at the Polarity.io/Community Edition waitlist sign up sheet. So today we're going to go over a quick overview of the Community Edition. We'll review how you can get signed up. And for those of you that have already signed up, or for those of you that do sign up, we'll talk about how you can take advantage of a special offer we have so that you can get additional integrations in your Community Edition. So with that, I'm really happy to welcome one of my favorite co-presenters, Joe Miller, who is our product manager here at Polarity. In addition to being our product manager, he is also the master of all he surveys and the lord of all. And alongside Joe is me. I'm Dan Ramaswamy. I run the field engineering team here at Polarity. So with that, let's jump right on into the Community Edition.
Yeah, so first off, glad to have everybody here. Again, name is Joe. So the Community Edition is going to kind of walk through what it includes and what it doesn't. So kind of the difference between community and enterprise. And one of the main differences is if you've attended a Community Tech Tuesday in the past, you've heard Swami talk about data awareness and data recall and how Polarity can provide that. The Community Edition is really centered around that data awareness. So it's built around the integrations piece. So immediately out of the box, the user is going to have MaxMind integrations. You're going to have that kind of information for MaxMind, and you're going to be able to select up to 3 additional integrations. Again, you can earn more integrations with our referral program, which we'll cover here in a minute. You'll have access to our community Slack. So anybody that's on our Community Edition can reach us, can reach out to us via community Slack, get updates via our Slack as well. And then one of the other big differences there is the modes that the user will have. So you can see here in the screenshot, user will be able to utilize our on-demand modes. That's kind of where you say, hey, Polarity, can you tell me what you know about these indicators? And then our highlight mode, where you can highlight information in real time on your active application. And then the Enterprise Edition, that's really unlimited. You have the whole role-based access controls. You have that piece of everything. You have our annotation framework, and really kind of built around that data recall and collaboration.
And we're going to get into these. So we're going to show you exactly how these modes work when we get into the actual unboxing of the Community Edition itself. So how do you get on the wait list? If you haven't already, which I think some of you have, go ahead and sign up at Polarity.io/community-edition-waitlist and get signed up. Like I said, we've had a really great response to it, and we're working through that wait list just as fast as we can. And I assure you, if you're on that wait list already, we'll be getting to provisioning your server very, very soon.
And also, don't forget to tell us what integrations you want when you sign up. So when you first sign up, you're going to be able to select 2 integrations from a predefined list, like URL scanned IP info. And then you're going to select an integration that you're going to need to configure, have an API key for, have access to. So things like VirusTotal, Alien Vaults, anything along those lines. And then, as we've kind of mentioned before, we do have a referral system. So if you use Polarity.io/referral, send it to a friend signs up, you will get an additional integration. You can have up to 2 additional integrations via our on your community server. So once you sign up, just let us know. We'll reach out to you, let us know what integration you want, and we'll get that installed on your Community Edition server for you.
Yep, and the way this actually works is that when you share this link with your friend or your coworker, they'll go to that website and it'll just ask for your email address, whatever email address you use to sign up for Community Edition. Make sure that they put that in so that you get credit for your extra additional integration. So with that, let's jump right on into unboxing the Community Edition. So once you've signed up for the community edition waitlist, what will happen is one of us will actually go and provision your server. And when your server gets provisioned, you're going to get an email from us that says that your server's been set up and your account is ready for you to use. And in that email is also going to be 3 links for which you can use to download the client of your choice. Now, be sure to pick the client that matches your operating system, because unfortunately, even though the kernels are similar, the Linux version won't run on Mac OS, the Mac OS won't run on Windows, etc. So I've gone ahead and downloaded the DMG for Mac OS so that we can actually walk through the actual install process and the full unboxing of the Community Edition client. So first thing you'll do is you'll mount the DMG, or you'll unzip or run the binary on Linux, or run the exe on Windows. The installers look very, very similar between operating systems. So everything that I show you here is going to be extremely similar to the additional operating system. So the first thing that's going to happen as I double click, it's going to ask me for my password to make sure that I indeed want to proceed with this installer. And for once, I could type my password in front of people. I'm pretty impressed with that. So once you've authenticated and you kick off the installer is going to start going through the dialogue of the setup. And it's a really simple setup where you basically make one decision on whether you want to accept or not accept the agreement. I do encourage everyone to at least glance through this, to avoid any Rumpelstiltskin type, agreements. Now, the additional steps to configuration here that I really want to focus on is the ability to install for the current user or for all users. Now, in a lot of different settings, and especially when you get into Windows and Linux, if you go to install for all users, you need to have an elevated privilege level so that you can install across all the profiles. So if you only want to install for yourself, you can run it under your local privilege level, and you can install it for the current user, meaning install it for yourself, meaning you don't have to go and request additional privilege escalation or anything like that. You can just install it for the current user. Or if you are doing this as an administrative install and you do want it to be available for all users, then by all means, check the all users and continue on. Now, normally, I've already run this installer, so I've already set some of the parameters. You would get an additional dialog here where you could pre-populate your server IP or domain name, which is right there within the email. Or if you wanted to set a proxy setting, you could also set it there. But you don't have to worry about that, because once we get the install completed, you're going to see that there's another place for us to go to enter in those data points. Now, as this goes through the install, you'll see it just goes through a quick install. And once it's done, I can say, great, I'm finished. This is awesome. And we'll move on. Now, you could launch Polarity, but one of the things I want to say is that if you install Polarity and you close it, you go on, you do the rest of your days at work, and then you decide, hey, I want to go back and I want to get into this. If you click on the magic link right here that says click here to start the client, it's going to launch Polarity. Here, let me move my browser over so you can see this. It's going to open this link in a browser, and it's going to open the client, and it's going to open the client and pre-populate all of the information that you would have to populate here. So it makes it quite a bit easier for you. So it's a lot easier to click this rather than have to copy all of these different user and password and URL, etc. So I'm just going to copy my password here. I'm going to paste it in here. Now, those options that I had mentioned before, your ability to add the proxy, if you do have to add a proxy, it's right here in your connection settings. So if you wanted to set it, you could set it right here.
Yep. And one thing to keep in mind, copying and pasting the passwords, if you copy and paste the space, and so you're getting an error message to start, and because you accidentally copied the space, you can always click on the I in the password field and kind of see what the password is and see if you added a space in there or not. And it doesn't look like Swami did, so.
Not this time, but I can assure you I have before.
You're not the only one.
So I'm going to go ahead and save and go ahead and log in. And the first thing you'll notice is that since we were given a default password that was machine generated, the Polarity server is going to ask me to go ahead and change my password. So I'm going to change this to something incredibly complex that no one would ever be able to guess. All right. And they don't match, of course, because I can't type when people are watching me. Oh yeah, it's because I can't even spell check myself. Okay, so now with that, we can go ahead and continue. We've changed my password, so now I can type this and go ahead and get logged into the server. So at this point now, I've done all there is to do from an initial client setup. So now I'm being presented with a quick tutorial, so I can see, hey, look, this is how Polarity works. This is kind of just a quick introduction, welcome to Polarity. So I'm going to follow the directions here, which says select all the text below and hold Command C for 1 second to continue. So that's what I'm going to do.
And just a little point, if I can interject here, Swami. If you are on Mac OS, you will get prompted upon install to accept some system preferences. So since we use shortcut keys on Mac OS, you actually have to grant permission to the platform to use the shortcut keys. And if you are on Catalina, there is this new functionality called screen recording. I'm sure the Mac users here know what I'm talking about if they try and use Zoom and things like that. So you just go into the accessibility, make for sure those are checked, and then you can restart the client, and then you can start utilizing the different functionality.
Right. So I need to make sure I do that. Screen recording.
And it'll of course prompt you to quit, but you can quit it and then bring it back, and it'll restart itself. You'll be able to log right back in.
All right.
So I think now, Swami, you just have to pull back up the Polarity CE. Yep, that should do it. It's another great way to test the magic link. And there it is. It should log you in automatically as well. It takes it a few seconds though, just to kind of pull itself up and then relog you in.
All right. Perfect. So now that we're there and we can actually make it work, let's follow the instructions. So, and as you can see, it's actually gone and run this through MaxMind, which is the integration that comes turned on by default. And it's produced the exact same results on my overlay window right here as I see over here in the guided tour. So those are the results that we would expect to see, right, Joe? I hope.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You're going to see results on the proxy address and then the 153. So now what happens is you're inside of the overlay window. This is the only window that really you will ever be in for Polarity. You're going to configure everything here. You're going to get data here. It's kind of where the user's going to live for the community edition. These are just some quick prompts that show you some different things with Polarity. So this is what this tooltip is saying. It's saying, hey, there's a search bar here. If you ever wanted to search for information that you're subscribed to, you can just copy and paste it or type it in and search for it. And then, of course, which is something we're going to do here, this is how to configure and kind of set up Polarity for you. So if you just click, got it there, Swami, and then click on that settings wheel. So that settings wheel, or that cog icon, however you want to look at it, is the configuration page. That's where you're going to go to configure, set up your different integrations, configure your preferences for your overlay window, as well as your My Account. So, and then, of course, we have some other tooltips that are going to kind of walk through the platform. And so if you just click on it there, is what that's saying is, hey, there's an integration that you need to add configuration to, because as we mentioned before, 2 integrations that you select are going to work out of the box. Swami had selected Windows security events and URL scan are the integrations that are just going to kind of come turned on and already configured for you. But he's going to have to configure Splunk in order to get it to work. So to configure an integration, you just click on that, again, that kind of settings, that gear icon, cog, kind of the configuration is how it is throughout Polarity. And then that's going to bring you to that configuration page. So now here, there's a few different things we'll cover. Each of these configurations pages are going to be dependent on that integration. Each integration has its own configuration components to it. So they'll each have their different options. For Splunk, there's some things you're going to need, like your base enterprise URL, which is going to have the REST API schema on it. By default, it's 8089. So for the Splunk users, it's going to be that URL you go to with the port 8089. And then the search app URL is going to be the same, but it's 9000. And that is just to link out into Splunk if you wanted to. The authentication token. So this is only for the Splunk Enterprise. That's how the integration works, is for Splunk Enterprise. That is generated inside of Splunk, and you just copy and paste that token in. And then the big thing here is that Splunk search string. That is actually the search that you're going to want to run inside of your Splunk instance to return data around. So you can tailor this search to however you wanted it to be. You can search specific indexes. You can specify time ranges, the number of returned data, etc. So
Yeah, and just to add on to here, one of the things that we've noticed is that Splunk is one of our most popularly requested integrations for the Community Edition. And one of the things I wanted to make sure that I cover here is that the way we work the integration is so that you can do lookups based on data that you're seeing. And I'll go through it and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But if you're looking to use Splunk data as the input data into Polarity, meaning the data that you're doing the data awareness lookups through the other integrations on, then you don't actually need to use the Splunk integration, because the way Polarity works is computer vision through the whole screen. So everything that's displayed on your screen is going to be used as, and I'm kind of air quoting right now, as the ingestion point. So you don't actually have to have the integration in order to process the data into Polarity. And if anybody wants any additional clarity on that, I'm happy to spend more time on it. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and apply these changes so that we can save our Splunk settings.
All right, so that is configuring Splunk. And again, if you ever have any issues when you're configuring integrations, always reach out to us. Can be through that community Slack, can be email, however you want to get a hold of us, you can reach out to get a hold of us. So, and if there were issues, you would not actually be able to turn on the integration. You would be prompted to say, hey, configure this. So since the information was input for Splunk, Swami was able to turn and subscribe to that integration.
Exactly right. So just to cover the colorization here, and as you can see, we've got different colors already pre-assigned. Splunk is gray, Windows Security Events is also gray, but URL Scan has this light kind of magenta reddish tone. We're working towards developing standards around data color displays, where we're going to work with some of the other vendors that produce data displays so that we can develop standards around these colors so that it makes sense to operators regardless of what tool you might be using. So for instance, when I see this bright magenta, I know that's like a known threat or like an investigation that's already occurred. Or if it's this deep purple, I know that's a current investigation or something that's compromised or something of concern that I should immediately draw my attention to. Or more importantly, if it's this bright safety orange, that's a remotely exploitable exploit or a vulnerable asset that I really need to pay attention to that data.
And of course, as a user, if it is something that you wanted to tailor to you because the colors don't work, you have a screen that's too light so you can't see the light gray, you can always adjust those like Swami is showing here.
Exactly right. So, and as we talked about the ability to get more integrations, if you wanted to discover more, see what else we have, you can click this and this will take you right to our page that shows all of the different integrations that we have. So I just wanted to show that real quick.
Yep, exactly. And then, so one thing I do want to point out, Swami, if you can go back to the configuration.
Oh, you got it.
Some integrations like URL Scan, if you can click on the settings there for to configure URL Scan, some of our integrations out of the box are kind of set to be more restrictive, so users aren't getting inundated with information. There's a few ways that you can kind of handle that. One is to turn on demand only, so URL Scan this is off. Is what that does is that basically says that if this integration is in on-demand only, I'm only ever going to get information from that integration when I run an on-demand query, whether I search in the search bar or I hit that Control-C and hold that shortcut down. Then I will get the information from that integration. The other thing is if you scroll down a little bit more, just want to highlight this because URL Scan is also a pretty popular integration. There's the view malicious indicators only. So by default, URL Scan is more restrictive, so you're not going to get information on malicious indicators. There are a good number of integrations that kind of have these restrictions built in. So if you aren't seeing any information on an integration immediately out of the box, make for sure you go in, check the configuration, and see if there is a restriction on it. You can just uncheck that, hit apply changes, and then you're going to get information from URL Scan on everything. So Swami, if you just want to do that for us real fast. Yep, exactly.
All right. Perfect.
All right. So then if you can go back, we're going to kind of walk through these other, go to the configuration.
I went too far.
You're going back too far, hitting back too many times. So I guess along those lines, if you are ever on the configuration page and you want to get back out of the configuration, just hit the back button. It'll take you right back to the kind of information-driven portion of Polarity. So if you click on that Preferences tab, that middle tab there, so the preferences are your overlay window preferences. So there are a few things I'm going to highlight here. One is that pin overlay window. It's on by default. So what that means is the overlay window is always going to stay where you tell it to stay. So it's always going to be in that kind of real estate that's there. This setting really comes in handy if you are on a single monitor. So if you're just on a single laptop, like I am all the time, I run in with the pin turned off. So that means if you turn it off, the overlay window will kind of disappear into the background until you tell it to come back or have an action for that window to come back. So as Swami did there, it kind of just disappeared. So now if I were to get a hit or run the on-demand shortcut query, or I just pull it up and go to the taskbar. So it's pinned, so it just kind of fades away. So to pull it back up on Mac, yeah, you can either run the shortcut key or go to the taskbar. So that's one setting. The other setting, which Swami currently has adjusted here, is the overlay opacity. I'll kind of talk about. So you can set, if you do have it pinned and kind of have that real estate set there, you can adjust that overlay opacity so you can just kind of see what's behind it and things like that. Another setting I want to talk about here is that overlay open duration. That really comes into play when the pinning is turned off. So is what that says, it's defaulted to 5 seconds. So what that means is if you are in highlight mode or in on-demand mode, you run that query, the overlay window pops back up. It's going to stay up 4 or 5 seconds until it disappears again. So you can easily adjust this to whatever time that you need to kind of process to look at the information that's come back and see if you want to take action. And if you are in that unpinned mode, if you hover on the overlay window, it's never going to go away as long as your mouse is hovered on it. So that's kind of the preferences. I'm just going to kind of cover those few ones. And then the My Account, if you ever need to change your password or your username, the My Account information is here. You can just go to the My Account section and hit edit. So that's kind of the configuration portion of the overlay window. Now we're going to kind of jump through a little bit on how the data works, the different modes and things like that.
Yeah, let's get into using it. Enough of this administrative stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So the first thing we're going to do here is walk through this on the on-demand only mode, which we've been talking about. So that's that shortcut key driven. So you can highlight information like Swami is doing here, hit that quick shortcut key, which for Community Edition is hold down Control-C, and then you're going to kind of get that information coming back. So as you can see here, there was data returned from URL scanned, Windows security events, Splunk is starting to return as well, and then MaxMind. So kind of all those integrations that Swami is subscribed to is getting data back from. So the on-demand only mode works by just highlighting information, hitting that quick shortcut key, you're going to get all of that information back to you as a user based on those integrations that you're subscribed to. So Swami, I don't know if you want to kind of go in depth a little bit more on the Splunk integration. I know that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, as I showed before, when we walked through the configuration of Splunk, I built a base Splunk query to run. So whenever I saw an IP address, I'm going to input it to that particular search and then get back exactly what was done. Is from a firewall log standpoint, this is just a file download. And for those that are Splunkers, this is a view that looks a little bit more like what you're used to looking at. You can see all of the different columns that are in there, and I can see exactly what was returned. I can see that this is exactly what I was looking for, which is this IP address. I've got a file hash hit on it where it downloaded something. It was not blocked. So just from a Splunk query standpoint. Now, again, kind of just to go back to the point I was trying to make is that we got to that Splunk query outside of Splunk. But if I was looking at the data from within my Splunk screen, I'm sorry, I don't have, let's see if I can do it real fast. Let's go here. Come on, authenticate me. Yes, all right, good stuff. So if you are somebody that just works through Splunk all the time and you're just perusing through data, and that's the data that you want to be using as your input. I wonder if I broke my main here. Oops. All right, let's go to. Let's play with Splunk for just 1 second. I promise. Just 1 second.
So, oh, there we go. Okay.
I just want to see if I get any of my returns that I would expect to see in here.
Might need to adjust the timing because it says only 24 hours.
Well, let's not play with Splunk. The point being is that I'm sure all of your Splunk instances aren't broken demo data sets like mine. And if you're actually working through the Splunk enterprise interface, and that's the data that you want to use to pivot on and look up through other data sets or data sources, that you don't have to use the integration for. You just display it on your screen, just like I'm doing with this Google Sheet here. And you would just be able to take, like, let's say it was a file hash in one of those logs, you could just take it and you could just do the lookup by the quick command stroke, right? So the command C and hold, and it's going to process that through all of your integrations the same way it would if it were in Splunk.
And another thing I'll highlight there is if you aren't getting data when you think you should be, double check the configuration for Splunk and others, and make for sure for Splunk for sure that your search query is set to the right parameters where you're actually going to get that information back.
Which I am terrible at, clearly.
So that's kind of how our on-demand only mode works. Now we're going to kind of switch modes. So within our community edition, it's very simple to switch back and forth between different modes. As you can see, so if you can highlight on the overlay window, see how you're in on-demand only mode there, you can quickly just hit that highlight toggle and the highlight mode will turn on. It'll turn a nice bright green, so it'll kind of let you know what mode that you're in. Turns bright green to let you know, hey, you're in a recognition mode now. So you'll be kind of getting information via recognition. So then do that, click back over into your spreadsheet, kind of change it up a little bit. So Polarity will run recognition when your active application actually changes. And you'll notice a few things here, like you're going to get information from MaxMind, from Splunk, from URL scan, but we're not going to get information from Windows security events. That's because the Windows security events is actually an on-demand only integration out of the box, just because of the nature of the event logs.
So I just held the command C just to show how that would go. Because you can use the on-demand call even when you're in highlight mode.
Yep. So this is another really good place here to kind of talk about the colors. So here in highlight mode, the colors really come into play. So you can see that 69, 195, 146 address that Swami has on his screen is actually kind of shaded two different colors. That's because there's a hit from MaxMind as well as URL scan. So the user, as a user, you can quickly see, all right, well, Polarity knows there's information from two integrations on this indicator. I might need to pay attention to it and see if this is anything that matters to my workflow or not. And you can very quickly tell based on that kind of color gradient that's there. So if it had a hit in other integrations, it would shade more colors based on whatever the integration color was. So that is kind of the highlight mode. Some other things I'm gonna have Swami do here. If you just hit the close button, you scroll up a little bit here. So there's a clear button there. So as you're kind of working in Polarity, you can very easily kind of tailor the overlay window on what data is there to your workflow. You can hit the X, it will clear it out, or you can just add that indicator to your ignore list just by hitting the quick yes button. So it says, hey, would you like to add this to your ignore list? You can click yes, and then we'll add that indicator to your ignore list. And what that means is you're not going to be notified again on that IP address. So you know what it is. This really comes into handy with things where you know what it is. You don't need to see it again. You've kind of already processed that information and you just don't want to be notified on it again at any point in time. You can just very easily click clear and then add that to your ignore list. So one other thing I'm going to have you cover here is that kind of more options right next to the X, the little drop down right there. Yep. So there's a few different things kind of built into this drop-down menu that is particular to that entity. You can always ignore it there. So if you wanted to save that in your overlay window, but you still want to ignore it, you can ignore it there. You can export that individual entity as well. So if you wanted to kind of take that data out and do something with it, you could. Or we have a kind of a Google search quick link built in automatically for all users, where it just kind of takes you out to Google. So that's kind of working with the data inside of Polarity. Swami just kind of showed what that Google link did. And since we're still in highlight mode, we're getting highlights on different things that are happening on Swami's screen. And at any point in time, you can always just hover on it and take action like he did.
Now, another thing is that if you
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so another really cool point, especially with the highlight mode, Polarity is CIDR aware, so you can see that he actually has the 69 148-0/2221 on his screen. So we are CIDR aware and we're able to kind of highlight those CIDR ranges on your screen as well. But that's all going to depend on those integrations you have. MaxMind is a CIDR aware integration. So
The one thing I was going to point out is that if you find that your overlay window is just getting really busy and you kind of want to just clear it out, you can simply reload. And what that'll do is that'll just clear out all of those lookups. Now, all of the lookups are still cached, so if you needed to do the lookup, it wouldn't go do a full process through the API again, but it just gets it out of your screen, so you can see clearly.
Yep, exactly. So that's kind of the overlay window, how data works, the different modes. Now we're just going to cover a few different kind of menu options and if you're having issues and where to get help and things. So the first thing is if you're inside of the overlay window, you're going to see that Polarity icon with the little drop down arrow next to it. That is the menu. So here within the menu, these are kind of the client desktop settings. So if you ever are unconnected and you want to find connection settings to reconnect to Polarity, you can just click the connection settings button and pull it back up. Or if you have an issue and you want to report it to Polarity, you've noticed something going wrong, you want to contact us, you can just hit that report issue. That'll pull up our issue reporter. You can send us your username, your email, or you can just make it anonymous and it'll send us a few days logs just to kind of help figure out what that issue was. All the logs are scrubbed and things like that when they come to us. So there should be no worries there. So the other thing I wanted to point out inside of that menu, if you could go back there for me, Swami, is the advanced settings. So these are kind of the advanced settings for your client. So the first thing you're going to see here is the shortcut keys. If you are ever having issues with the on-demand shortcut key, you can very easily just change it. Just click the edit button, hit whatever shortcut key combination you want it to be, and it will allow you to kind of change that. Just keep in mind that if you do change it, you'll probably want it to start with Control or Command C because that copies the information to your clipboard and then it allows it to kind of extract that data that is there that you've highlighted. The other thing I want to cover is that Ignore Manager that you're going to see there. So once you have ignored information, this is going to be where you can unignore it or you can just type in information and ignore it again. You can very easily remove it. So if you want to get the information again, just reference the Ignore Manager here. And then the final thing within the Ignore Manager I want to cover is the windows. So if you are in our highlighting mode and what we call kind of a recognition mode, and you don't want Polarity to run on a particular window or application, you can very easily come in here and temporarily ignore that, or you can go down to the ignore rules and add by title and just say, all right, don't ever do anything under 1Password or a key pass or something along those lines. So just kind of wanted to point those out as ways to kind of help tailor the Polarity experience to more your liking as you're using the community. So that's it on the advanced settings window. The last thing I really want to cover here is going to be the help and how to get help within Polarity. So if you see a little help icon, hover on it, and you just click that. It's actually going to take us to our help documentation, which is all hosted on our website, as Swami is pulling up here. It takes you to the Community Edition guide. So you can see basically kind of just recaps everything that we had talked about already, how it works, how to sign in, and frequently asked questions if you're having issues, things along those lines. Or again, like we said, everybody who is on our community actually gets access to our community Slack. So in the community Slack, there's announcement channels, integration channels, support channels, things like that. Or you can always just ping us directly if you have any questions or issues. Just a quicker way to kind of get a hold of us and be a part of the community if you are having issues. One last thing I wanted to point out is that if a user was or you were ever interested in developing a Polarity integration, our developer guide is also here. This completely walks you through how to build an integration out of the box. All of our integrations are Node.js or JavaScript based. So if you have any familiarity with Python or scripting, it's not too hard to pick up. This page really kind of allows you to figure out what exactly is needed. And of course, there is our GitHub page, which you can always reference on building an integration. So if you ever wanted to see other integrations that have happened, see other code, we try and open source as many of our integrations as possible. So you can just go through and see all those integrations that you're going to choose. You can actually go and see the source code for them. And I guess along those lines as well, if you did develop an integration, just let us know. Right now, we're going to be working on an SDK and things like that. So if you do develop an integration and you really want to test it, again, reach out to us and we'll install that. We'll kind of QA it for you and install that on your server for you. Oh, looks like Swami got
yeah, I unborked my my previous errors in my SPL. I won't lie. I worked for Splunk for 2 years, and I'm not very good at the query language. So,
But now that you have it pulled up, you can actually see Polarity augmenting information within Splunk with that 104 IP address. Polarity's highlighting that, saying, hey, we know something about this IP address. You can then kind of get that extra context as you are looking at data in Splunk, like Swami had mentioned before.
that's right. And you could still even use the on-demand. So this isn't coming up as any kind of a record, so I can still hold my Command C and see if it returns anything. Well, lo and behold, it returns exactly what I thought it would, which is all 10 of these records that I have in here. So, as to be expected.
So that is our community edition unboxing. We're, again, super excited to have folks start using our community. I know a few folks have already signed up that are on the call, and I think one or two might actually be community users currently. So we're just very excited to be very excited to have this for everybody, and now we'll kind of open it up to questions.
Yeah, perfect. Let's see, I got to open the questions tab, so if you'll just bear with me. Here we go.
When folks don't know, there is like that Q&A portion.
Yeah. Yeah, for those that are not, the Zoom, veterans, there is a Q&A panel. If you open that up, don't hesitate to type questions in there. In addition, I've also opened up the chat window. So if you do put in a question into the chat as well, I've got that open as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions from there as well. Looks like there's a couple coming in. Joe, how can we install our custom developed integrations?
Yeah, of course. That's a fantastic question. So again, right now we don't have that SDK or anything. So the best way to do that is actually to reach out to us, and somebody here at Polarity will install that for you and kind of work with you on that process.
Perfect. Another great question. Can you change the integrations in the community edition once they are set so that we can test different integrations?
Yes, of course you can. Oh, looks like Dan, you're going to answer that. Sorry.
Oh, no. I was just checking off because you're answering it.
No. Of course you can. Kate, thank you for asking. That's a fantastic question. You can definitely change out the integrations. You just reach out to us. We'll uninstall an integration, reinstall different ones that you want to kind of help tailor that community edition to your workflow.
Great. So yeah, if you want to change them, for sure. Another great question: would there ever be a way to reverse look up an artifact from the Polarity overlay into a Splunk query? The answer is quite simply yes, because the way we've got it set up, and let me do this really quick. Let's see, let's get one to pop up here. Let's go, we'll copy this, we'll run this through URL scan. Should pop up. Okay, so as you can see, I've done this. I've gotten this back to URL scan. I could take this right here, this exact same thing. I could then run it in an on-demand lookup that I've built into Splunk Enterprise. Now, obviously, I'm not going to have any results right now, but if I had my Splunk Enterprise set for on-demand, now as I'm copying and holding the Command C on this particular indicator or this artifact from within the overlay window, this would then process it through Splunk and see if it was there.
And then along those lines, so you don't just have to highlight that indicator. If you just click into the details view, Swami,
yep.
If there is an IP or a domain or a URL or something along those lines, you can always just highlight it from that details view and then run that kind of reverse lookup as well in all the different integrations that you're subscribed to. So, oh, yep, there we go. Looks like the URL had hit. So you can very easily pivot between different integrations that you're subscribed to based on the data that is inside of the overlay window.
Perfect. Let's see.
Yes, that is correct, Sue. As long as the integration exists and it is installed on your server, then you can pivot to that integration. You have to be subscribed to the integration or have the integration on your server in order to pivot to it.
Yeah, just to restate the question, is as long as the integration exists. So meaning that you couldn't pivot to looking that up in Splunk through Polarity without having the integration. Just to clarify.
Yep.
All right. I think that really kind of covers it. you know, the last thing I would say is, again, look, if you enjoy these Community Tech Tuesdays, be sure to join us. We do them a couple times a month. We'll probably be focusing more again on kind of the end-to-end, you know, life cycle of data through Polarity and through whatever strategic partner that we're presenting with next time. But again, if you're not already signed up for the Community Edition, I would please get on it, because again, we're getting through that list as fast as we can, and we'll get to you guys as soon as possible. So there is another question in the chat. It's, do you have a roadmap for enterprise rollout? Great question. We already have the enterprise product. The enterprise product is available. So if you are signed up as a community user, or you already are a community user and you're interested in transitioning into being an enterprise user, just reach out to any of us in the community Slack, and we'll be more than happy to help get you onto a roadmap for rolling it out in your organization. Awesome. Well, listen, I just want to thank you again, Joe, as my co-presenter. I think this is great. Thank everyone for your time. And again, get signed up for our next Community Tech Tuesday, and hope to see you all on the community Slack channel. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your Tuesday.